Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Shelly Loves to Paint lesson. Today, we are going to continue on with our series on greeting cards for the holidays. And this design is a beautiful set of gold bells hanging on a Christmas tree. All right, and so I'm going to be sharing with you some tips and tricks on how to get that Christmas tree behind the bells while having bells that we're going to be painting that are kind of transparent in color to begin with. So I'm going to share with you, because we're working with multi-surface paint that has a sealer built into it, I'm going to be putting the Belle base coat on first, the Belle and the ribbon base coat on first. And then we're going to stroke our trees. And as we do that, we're going to overrun some of those bells and the ribbon. But because that's already been base coated and dried, it's easy to wipe it or take it off with a clean, damp brush. So that's the process that we're going to follow today. So I hope you'll stick with me and see what I'm talking about, and you'll learn as we go. All right, so the colors that I have on my palette today, I'm going to go around here. We have some Asphaltum, which is the matte acrylic, right? It's kind of a beat up bottle, but that's what we're working with. And then we have the rest are multi-surface colors. It's multi-surface acrylic paint by Plaid FolkArt. And so we have Wicker white, yellow ochre, citrus green, Thicket, Prussian blue, apple red, berry wine, and then we have treasure gold, all right, which is one of our beautiful gold metallic colors. And then I've got floating medium here in the middle if we need it. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to take a 16 flat, get that damp, and we're going to load this with yellow ochre. Okay, so I'm going to pick up a bunch of yellow ochre, and we're going to come right here to our card. And remember, as we're doing the card, I'm going to be adding some of the details into just the corner of the envelope so that they tie together and look pretty. All right, so we're going to come right in here on this bell, and I have the pattern already traced on. Remember that my patterns are available when we use them. They are under the comments section for each video, and they're pinned to the top. It's a link that you're going to follow and download that pattern and then print it. This is a 5x7 card, so make sure you're printing that image as a 5x7 to fit that size card, or you can enlarge it if you need to fit whatever size card you're going to do this on. Or if you decide to do this as just a painting, it would look pretty as that as well. Okay, so we're going right over the whole bell with the yellow ochre. All right, just as a base coat. So we're sealing that area. And we're going to do the same thing here. All right, and this bigger one. And what's going to happen is, as this dries, it's going to seal the surface of the card in under that color. And so what's nice about that is if you then stroke another area and you go over that sealed multi-surface painted area, and this doesn't work with all acrylics, it's just because this particular type of acrylic paint has a built-in sealer to it. All right, so don't think that you're going to get this in everything. It only works with this type of paint. So what's going to happen is, if we stroke over it, we can then take a clean, damp brush and clean off any of that overstroked area. So that puts the tree behind after we get everything on there. Because if we were to paint just the tree first and try to avoid those areas, it's hard. If we didn't avoid those areas and we just went right over the bell shape, underneath that transparent yellow, you're going to see those dark lines from the green. And we don't want that either. So this is the process that I've come up with to do this. All right, now I've taken a 12 flat and I'm going to get apple red on there, and we're going to just base coat our ribbon here. All right, and I wouldn't normally paint this way. And if it was a real issue, if you wanted to do the background first, you could, and then you can base coat your images in white to white out the bell and the ribbon. But then you'd have to go back over them with the actual colors themselves. So starting with a white background here, and because we have a multi-surface paint that's got a sealer built into it, we'll be able to avoid that step. There. All right, so just adding the tails on the ribbons here. Okay. I'm not really worried about the loops on these, but I can go ahead and paint those, but we'll just probably end up having to repaint them again. All right, so I can take a 2 script liner and get that damp, and then we can come with the yellow ochre here, and around there, just to get those ochred in. But that's not going to be that big of a deal with the green underneath. Okay. All right, so that's all done. And on this paper, it seals pretty quickly. It dries pretty quickly, I should say. So this is dry already. This is dry already. This red is pretty close to being dry. I'm going to go ahead and get started with the evergreen part that goes in the background now. So we have, this is a feather brush, also known as a rake brush. It's a 5/8 inch. It's from the Donna Dewberry signature collection. And they also come in the green handled version too. So you're going to get that dampened water and just kind of touch the tip to paper towel because you want some of that moisture left in here. And so I'm going to grab a bunch of Thicket on one side and the citrus green on the other. Okay. And so this has kind of a feathery tip to it. So we get real pretty strokes when we want fine edge tipped strokes. All right, so I'm going to chisel edge down, and let's come down closer here. So chisel edge down, and then we're going to pull on just the chisel edge of the brush, right? We're getting these wispy strokes. Let's get a little bit stronger with the Thicket. So chisel, handle straight up and down, and you're pulling to get those feathery pine needles, right? Grab a little more of, I've got a little too much of that lighter color than I wanted. So I'm going to wipe off and just pick up some more of the Thicket, right? And we can come right through. Little chisel strokes. You might even grab just a little bit of white. Not enough. Grab a little white. Just to lighten up some of those strokes. Okay, so that's the process for doing each of those pine boughs. All right, so I'm going to wipe off that white because I don't want that just yet, but that's the process. So let's come back to our Thicket, and we'll start with that. Okay, so we're going to come down here, and because we're just working with one color, okay, we can come through Now see here where I'm going over that edge of that bell? I want to very quickly get my damp, clean brush, and I can take that right back off again. And then it looks like the pine bough goes underneath that bell. See that? So that's what I was talking about. And it's very nice because you can take that off very quickly without leaving that paint underneath the bell and having it show. All right, now I'm going to pick up some of the citrus green and then some white. It's better if you start down here at the tip. I have a habit of starting at the back, and I really should start at the tip. Okay, so wiping off and then coming back to our thicket. And I am taking care that I don't have to clean off a lot, but if you overrun it, it's pretty simple to get it off. So I'm just going through this process of the thicket, then the citrus green, and then the little bits of white. Okay, so that's those pine boughs. Then we can come on the other side of the bell. Right, and I could potentially fill up this entire card with these green boughs, but I didn't want it to be that full. Okay. So that clean brush, it has to be damp. And that takes that paint right back off again. Grab the citrus, chisel strokes on this, and then the white. Right, and then wipe off. All right, so now we could come in through the middle here. See, and this is where I was saying if you went over those links, that we would probably just end up restroking those. So. Oops. Okay. So that's just kind of background. I'm going to leave that in that thicket color. I'm not going to add any highlights to that. And underneath our bow here, kind of same thing. And then out here we can spray it out. Then get our citrus green. bit of white. And that came out as a lot of white. So I can come back with some Thicket and just kind of tone that down. Okay. All right, so coming back to our Thicket, then we can finish up with these boughs up here. Oh, you know what? I realized I went over my bow here a little bit. Okay. So I want one that comes down here, and I want another one that comes across this way. All right, so we're going to pull this one. So you're sweeping on that chisel edge with just a little bit of pressure. And then taking that overrun off. Okay. So I'm going to come right over that bow up here. All right, and then we can take that final brush off. You can't wait too long or it will start to dry. Okay. And with this red, I can see that I also don't want to scrub too hard because it's taken some of that off. Okay, then we come to our light green, that's citrus green. And then finally a little bit of white. And that's sparing up here, not too heavy with that. Okay, and just a little bit more. There. So leaving some of this dark where it comes underneath and up and around things. All right, so here we've got pretty much what we want for their finished look here with the evergreens. And now we can come back and work on our bow, our bells, excuse me, in our bow. You know what? One last thing. Sorry, guys. So I want to come out from underneath here just to kind of fill this area in with some of those pine needles. There's just too much white space down here, okay? I don't mind a little bit of it, but I want that to kind of fill in. So we're going to add some of the Thicket in there. And the citrus, and then finally a little bit of white. There, just to kind of fill that area in. Okay, that's better. Okay, so now let's come back to our bells. So I come back to the 16 flat, and I'm going to load this with the yellow ochre again. All right, and we're going to come and side stroke some white on half that brush and work it in really well. So it's just a lighter shade of that yellow. Okay, so half is yellow ochre and half is yellow ochre and white. And so I'm going to create a glare along one part of the bell. So in this case, it's going to come right around this area here. And then on the same side, we're going to have one along this area here. So what you want to do is we're going to come along this right side with the white in. All right, flip the brush and kind of work that in so that it's creating that glare area. So you don't want to stripe. You want it to kind of fade out into the darker colors and just have that light color go up and down the shape of that bell. All right, so see how that creates that? Okay, so then with that same light color, we can come along the lip of the bell. And maybe put just a little bit of a glare right back here. So same sort of process. You're doing the light in the middle, flip the brush, and you're creating that little bit of glare right there. All right, we're going to fill in more with dark along here, but we want that there. All right, so coming back to that same brush load, on the smaller bell, you're going to put the yellow ochre to the outside edge, and you're going to come stroke that with the white in towards the center, about to the right third of the bell, right? And then flip the brush and continue with the ochre to the left. And you're kind of working and blending that light area. Okay, so see that glare you've created? Right, and then on here, let's come and add a little bit of that same glare on the inside, right in there. Okay. All right, now I want that white off of there, so I'm going to clean that brush. And we're going to load with the yellow ochre again. And then I'm going to come and side stroke some of this asphaltum. Work that in. All right. And what we want to do with that is we're going to come up inside with the asphaltum to the top. And we're going to shade along the inside of the bell. Okay, leave that glare area the way it is right there. All right, and then on this one, we're going to do the same thing. So I'm going to come right up in here with that dark edge along the top inside edge of the bell. And we come around that glare area. See right there? And stand it up. There. All right, so I'm going to add just a little bit of medium to my brush because it's a little dry. And so proceeding with that, then we're going to come along this edge of the bell with that, with the asphaltum to the left. And I'm just taking the corner with the yellow ochre and just working that in so it doesn't completely wipe out our highlighted area. And then you're going to do the same thing. Let's get a little more of that asphaltum on this bigger bell. Okay. There. So we've got our shaded areas done. Let's actually come in over here and pull some more of that dark. So keep this area light on this, but right in on the right hand side of the inside, we're keeping that dark. Okay. And then the same thing here. We'll come with the asphaltum to the right hand side of the brush, and we'll just keep that a little bit darker. All right, that looks better. Okay. Clean that brush. And now all we need to do is just kind of let that set. But I also want to let's take a 6 flat. All right, and we're going to get that damp, and we're going to load the yellow ochre, and we're going to come right in where that clapper hangs down. So right here. Let's get a little bit of white on that right hand side of it. And then over here, you're just seeing a little bit of it peeping out. So keeping the white to the right hand side. All right, and then up from that you can pull, the little curved connectors. Okay, and then I want to take my same brush, we're going to side stroke some of that asphaltum, and we're going to darken the left side of this and a little bit of that, this little curve right here, and pull down on those ones that are coming from underneath the bell. Okay, and then over here, we'll put some asphaltum on that side. So those are the clappers. All right, and then come back to your script liner. We can get that yellow ochre again, and we can put our links up here. Get just a touch of white with that. There. All right, and then you can get some of the asphaltum. Okay, so right there, just like that, you could leave those bells the way they are, but we're going to metallic them up just a little more. So I'm going to take my 16 flat and get this yellow, treasure gold, and we're going to go right over the whole bell. And what's going to happen is, and I'm not pushing it in, I'm just kind of sweeping it on top. So you're going to keep that highlighted area still going to show, but you're going to get that metallic sheen on there. Okay. See how pretty that is? Now, if you feel like you've lost the shading, you can side stroke a little bit of the asphaltum. And it's actually better if you wait for this to dry, but you can shade along that left side if you feel like you lost it, right? So over here, while I still have that on the brush, I will do this side. See there? Then I can wipe that asphaltum back off and just get the rest treasure gold. There we go. So see, I didn't sweep it over the entire thing. I let some of that light from that glare just be there without the metallic showing. So you can decide which one you like better, okay? And come along here. Just do a little bit of that where that highlight is. And down here. A little bit on the clapper. Right, just kind of scuff it in there a little bit, right? Okay, and then you can take your script liner and get that gold here. There and there. So just be kind of loose with it, and I think that'll look really good. Now to finish this off with our bow, let's come get our 12 flat. We're going to load this with the apple red again. And then I'm going to, I put out the blue and the, so this is Prussian blue and this is berry wine. So I want to show you with the apple red, the berry wine isn't real strong, and I think I'm going to reserve that for my berries. So I'm going to side stroke some of this blue, which is going to give me kind of a purple tone. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to come right inside this curve right here. Right? Inside this curve right here. Okay. And then get more of that red, not quite so much of the blue, with the red to the top. Push and stand up. And then come along here and pull that in. All right, so it just kind of darkens the bottom half of that bow. And you keep picking up that fresh apple red. Okay, so on this side, we want to, let's turn this. So we come from this edge. And pull that in. Okay, so a pretty little bow. And then we add the tails. And then we have these little pieces that come down to grab the bells with. And then you can take the 6 flat with the apple red here, put the knot in, you can side stroke a little bit of that blue. All right, so there's your pretty bow. Now, if you don't care for that blue, you can use the berry wine, or let me show you another way, because this will go right over it and it'll be fine. So you load it with all red and you side stroke some of this Thicket. All right, so that gives you, I like a brown color, and red and green together makes a brown. Okay, so if you don't like the blue, you can come in here with that green, and that'll give you a deeper color, just slightly different. Okay, so there's some options for that. All right, now I'm going to let that dry for just a minute, and we're going to come back to our rake brush. We're going to grab, I should have been doing this as we were doing the evergreen bows before, but I forgot. I get excited about one thing, I forget about the other. So here in the corner of our envelope, make sure it's the bottom left corner, right? We can pull up some pine boughs and add, get just a touch of water. I don't want a lot. I just want this a little bit thinner. There we go. Okay, and then get your citrus green, your lighter green, and do just a few chisel strokes over top of that dark. Okay, and then go to the white, just a touch of white, and a few highlight strokes. And then if you need it, you can come back to the darker green. Actually wipe that off, because those lighter colors muddy up your brush a little bit. So you can add a few of those darker green ones back in. Okay, just to fill in that corner. Okay, so now we're going to take a 1/4 inch dauber, right? And we're going to get berry wine on that whole dauber, and then get just a little bit of apple red on 1/3 of that, okay? And we can come through here and just add a few berries onto our tree. Oops. Probably put out way too much paint for that, but that's okay. All right, just to kind of balance that bright red bow. Sorry, there we go. Balance that bright red bow and add some color triangles. So let's put some up here. Okay. So now you've got some triangles to look at. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 colors of red on there. And then you can come add on your envelope just a little cluster. Little cluster of those. Okay. And then I like to actually come get just a touch of white after I've put those berries on there. I'll work in just a touch of white, push and lift, and blend that slightly so that when you come in here, you can add, not to every single one, but to a few, a little bit of a highlight. Right? And here. Right there. Okay. Okay. Now to finish this off, I want to take my 16 flat. I'm going to load that with medium, and then we'll come over here and side stroke just a little bit of white, just a tiny bit. And we can come right in here and add a little bit of a glare. Let's take some of that white off. On the ribbon. And it's not on the edge, it's in slightly. Maybe use a 12 flat. This is a little big for this size ribbon. So you have to flip it so that it fades away on both sides and creates that little glare. And when it dries, it really looks like a glare on that ribbon. I don't like it on this one, so I'm going to take that back off. Okay. So sometimes it's okay to wipe that off, and sometimes, especially on paper, you might take off some of that red, so be careful. There. Okay. There we go. So a little more subtle. That's better. Okay. There we go. Sometimes you just have to play with it, but it works. Okay, so then we just take a script liner and let's get some inky Thicket, I think. And we'll find a spot to sign it right down here. So I hope you will give this greeting card design another try. And I thank you guys. Make sure if you do enjoy these lessons that you're giving me a thumbs up on my YouTube channel for each of the videos. That tells YouTube that you're enjoying things and that you want to see more, and it shares them with other people. So please share also if you like. Please share links to on your social media. I would appreciate that very much. Okay guys, so there's our beautiful shining bells on our evergreen tree, and I hope you will give this a try and share it with your loved ones. Come back next time and I will be doing one last greeting card for the season. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.